We are going to solve quadratics by factoring. So we are solving for x. We have solved equations all along where we solve for x. We're going to do this by hand. The way we know it's quadratic is if you have it like this. Equals some number, let's say 0. That's our standard form of quadratics. So we're going to solve this. And what we're going to do is we're going to find x, which is our solution, which also goes back to, remember all the words, rocks, roots, zeros, x-intercept, solutions. They're all the same thing. It just means where it crosses the x-axis. But we're going to do this without graphing. We're going to do it by factoring. So we are going to get a solution where it's x equals some number. Remember, we can have no solution. You can have x equals no solution. I guess I shouldn't put not equal. It should say equals. X equals no solution. X equals some number, or x equals a number and x equals another number. So we can have no solution, we can have 1, or we can have 2. I guess I should put none. None, 1, or 2. Those are our options for solutions. And we can write it as x equals, or we can write it as a solution set like this, where you put the number inside these little squiggly braces. Okay, so the zero property is how we're going to do this. So the zero property is used to solve an equation when one side is 0 and the other side is a product of binomial factors. So product means multiplication. So this is what it may look like. So this actually is two different equations. We set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So I'm going to say x plus 1 equals 0 and x minus 5 equals 0. And then we solve it. So we would draw your line down your equal sign, and we're solving for x. So x equals -1. And then this other one. Solve x minus 5 equals 0 by doing the inverse operations. So we're going to say x equals -1 and x equals 5. So this one has two solutions. And you're going to write those solutions in the little squiggly braces. So it's going to be -1, 5, and put a box around it. So that is our solution. That's the basics of it. We're going to, let's see, we're going to change this one because we just did that one. So I'm going to do like our, I'm just going to change it to this, just so we have an extra problem. Just mark out what this one is. So this problem actually has two equations that we need to solve. So we're going to write x plus 3 equals 0, and x minus 6 equals 0. And you solve both equations. So go ahead and do that. Solve both equations. I'm going to go ahead and do it so you can check your answer. These three cancel. 0 minus 3 is -3. And then this other one, we need to do the opposite of minus 6. Add 6. So our two solutions are -3, 6. That's our solution set. Those are where it's going to cross on the x-axis if we were to graph it. So we can use this 0 property when it says equals 0. That's the key there. See how I set them both equal to 0. Okay, let's look at number 2. We have x, and then we have x plus 4 equals 0. So it's the same thing. We would say x equals 0, and x plus 4 equals 0. This one's already solved. We're good. This one's not solved. So we got to solve it. So we subtract 4, x equals -4. So we can write our two solutions. It would be what? 0 and -4. Usually they want you to have it in order from smallest to largest. So I would put -4, 0. Because that's how you'll see it. Okay, let's look at number 3. It says 3, and then we have a binomial. A binomial equals 0. So let's do the first one. Does 3 equal 0? No. So we're going to ignore that one. Okay, so I'm just putting a not equal to, so I am not going to use this at all. So then I'll mark it out. 3 doesn't equal 0, so I can't use it. But 2x minus 4 equals 0, and 3x plus 7 equals 0 can be solved. So we're doing this the same way. Even though we have a number in front of x, we're just going to solve that. So to solve this, you would first move the -4, do plus 4. 2x equals 4. Then we're going to divide by 2, because that's what we do. X equals 4 divided by 2, 2. Okay, and then this other one, same thing. We need to move the plus 7 by doing -7. Then we have 3x equals -7. Then what's our last step to get x all by itself? Divide by 3. We're going to leave it as a fraction. If it can be reduced, we'll reduce it. But let's look at it. If I put this in alpha y equals, y'all do this with me. I'm going to go ahead and do -7 over 3. And when it comes out to the same thing, that means it can't be reduced. So that's our answer. So when we write our solution set, I'm going to write it up. No, I'm going to write it over here. This one's smaller because it's the negative. So -7 over 3 and 2. So the reason we're using this instead of just graphing, because whenever you do graphing, it just gives you a decimal answer if it's like this. So we want the exact answer, which is written as a fraction. All right, let's go to number 4. Okay. This is written the same way. It just says equals 0. So it's still equals 0 even though it says 0 equals. But look at our trinomial. Look at that first term. Whenever you have a first term that's negative, you have to factor out that negative first. So let's do this first. Because it's not listed as our two binomials, we've got to create our two binomials. So factor out -1. When you factor out a -1, that's going to change all of your signs to the opposite sign. So this is going to be -1 parenthesis x squared. It's going to change all of these signs whenever you factor out. If it was positive, it would change it to a negative. But in this one, they're all negatives. So this is going to become plus 6x plus 9. And I'm going to put equals 0 on the other side. Because honestly, it doesn't matter which side it says equals a number. So I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, we need to factor this trinomial into two binomials. Does this look familiar? It was our warm-up. The inside was, anyway. So let's use our X box. The top is the A times C, so that's 9. The bottom is the B, which is 6. What multiplies to get 9, adds to get 6. 3 and 3. Let's do our box. Fill in your first and last box. And then here are the magic numbers with X. So let's factor. Remember what I said about if this is just 1, we're going to factor X and the magic number. X and magic number. Whenever there's not a different number in front of X squared. And these are all positive. So let's write what it is now. So we still have that -1 out front. But now we have X plus 3 times X plus 3 equals 0. Okay, does -1 equal 0? No. Do I really need to write that down? Nah. I'm just going to start with X plus 3 equals 0. X plus 3 equals 0. Now solve them. It's the same answer, but written twice. So whenever I write my solution set, how many solutions do I really have? Yeah, just that one. So my solution is -3. It only crosses the x-axis that one time, and it's at -3. All right, draw your line down your equal sign. We're going to number 5. Oh, did I really need to do that? I did, because see how it doesn't say equal 0? I need to make it say equal 0. So how can I make it say equal 0? What's keeping it from saying equal 0? 4. How do I move 4 to the other side? I need to move it by doing the inverse operation. This is a +4. So I need to do a -4. And you put it underneath the like term. It's not an x squared. It's not an x. it's a constant. So I'm going to do it like that. Oh, I didn't need to do that. Why did I do that? Ignore me. There we go. I needed to do that one. Okay, so now we have x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. So now it looks the way I want it to look. This needs to be binomials though. So this is A, B, and C. So we need to do our x box. On the top of our x, we do A times C. So that'd be 1 times negative 8. And then 2. So what are the factors of negative 8 that add to get 2? So I saw some of y'all grabbing your calculator. That's good. So one of them's negative, one of them's positive. So we got to figure that out. So we could go and write all of our factors. So remember, you put the top number, negative 8 divided by x. Look at your table and see which ones are going to add to give a positive 2. So I have 1 and negative 8. No. 2 and negative 4. If I have 2 and negative 4, what does that equal? I'm going to hit second, quit, and do that. 2 minus 4. It's negative 2. But I want a positive 2. So do y'all remember what we do to get our numbers? Switch the sign. So negative 2 plus 4. That works out. So it's negative 2 plus 4. So our magic numbers are negative 2 and positive 4. So let's do our box because we got our magic numbers. Top left is our first term. Bottom right is our last term. Diagonals are our magic numbers with x. So factor x and x. Remember, if this is 1x squared or just x squared, we can just factor our magic numbers. So this is going to be replaced with x plus 4 times x minus 2 equals 0. So we just factored it, and now we got to solve it. Set them both equal to 0 and solve. Then write your solution set in the squiggly braces with the smallest number first, so negative 4, comma 2. All right, one last problem. What do you notice about this? X minus 4 squared. What does that mean? There's 2 of them. So how many solutions am I really going to have, though? 1, because they're the same. So this is like number 4. So I only have to do this once because there is one distinct factor written twice. X equals 4. Okay. So go ahead and glue these notes in.